I took the job at the Bowline Hotel on a Tuesday afternoon in late March. Didn't ask about benefits. Didn't negotiate. Rain Lewis, the manager, walked me through the back hallways and showed me the maintenance closet, the boiler room, the laundry setup in the basement. She talked fast, pointed at things. I nodded and kept my hands in my jacket pockets. Overnight shift is 11 to 7, she said. Quiet most nights. Guests don't call down much after midnight unless something's really broken. Sounds good. You worked maintenance before? Safety coordinator, up in Tacoma, but I can fix most things. She looked at me for a second. I'm pretty sure she wanted to ask why I left, but she didn't. That was fine. I wasn't planning to tell her about the warehouse fire or the 2 guys who got hurt or the way I couldn't sleep in my apartment anymore because every time a truck drove past I thought I smelled smoke. Start Thursday, she said. 11 sharp. I showed up at 10:30. Astoria is one of those towns that feels like it's always damp. Not raining exactly, just wet. The kind of place where your jacket never fully dries and the wind off the Columbia River cuts through whatever you're wearing. I didn't mind it. I'd grown up in Longview, about an hour east, so the weather wasn't new. And the Bowline sat right on the water, which meant I could see the bridge lights from the employee lot when I pulled in. The hotel wasn't fancy. 3 stories, maybe 60 rooms, a lobby that smelled like coffee and old carpet. It used to be something nicer, I think. You could tell by the crown molding in the hallways and the way the front desk had this heavy wooden counter that nobody makes anymore. But now it was mostly families passing through and workers from the port who needed a place to crash between shifts. Rain met me in the back office that first night, showed me the key ring, the radio, the log sheet where I was supposed to write down what I fixed and when. She went over the schedule again. Told me the night auditor, some guy named Marcus, worked the front desk and usually kept to himself. You'll get calls on the radio if something breaks, she said. Otherwise, just work through the punch list. It's printed every afternoon. Check the second floor ice machine first. It's been weird. Got it. And Paul? I looked up. Don't make me regret this. I nodded. She left. The first 3 nights went exactly the same. I liked that. I'd stop at the Safeway on Marine Drive before my shift and get a tall, dark roast from the Starbucks inside. They closed the actual coffee counter at 8, but the self-serve stuff stayed out until 9, and if you timed it right, the coffee was still hot. I'd drink half of it in the car and bring the rest inside with me. 11 o'clock, I'd clock in using the old punch system in the back hallway. Actual paper time cards. I hadn't seen one of those in years. Then I'd grab the key ring and the radio and check the punch list. First night, the list said, second floor ice machine, room 214 clogged sink, replace smoke detector in room 109. I did all 3. The ice machine just needed the filter cleaned. The sink had a wad of hair the size of a golf ball stuck in the trap. The smoke detector was easy. I kept spares in the maintenance closet. I wrote everything down in the log. Kept my notes short. Ice machine filter cleaned, sink trap cleared, smoke detector replaced. Rain would check it in the morning, I figured. Easier if she didn't have to read through a bunch of extra words. Around 2 in the morning, I'd hit the vending machine in the first floor hallway and get a pack of those orange crackers with peanut butter. 6 crackers, 2 sleeves. I'd eat them standing up and then get back to work. The basement was my least favorite part, but it wasn't terrible. Just dim. The laundry room was down there, and housekeeping would leave carts of wet towels outside the door for me to run through the big industrial machines. I didn't mind the work. The machines were loud, but they had a rhythm to them. Thump, 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 steady. I could think while they ran, or not think, which was better most of the time. Second night was almost identical. Different rooms, same problems. Leaky faucet in 322. Busted curtain rod in 117. Light bulb out in the stairwell. I moved through it all like I was following a script. Predictable. Quiet. Third night, Marcus the auditor actually said something to me. I was passing through the lobby around 1 in the morning, carrying a toolbox, and he looked up from his computer. "You're the new maintenance guy." "Yeah." "You're early every night." I shrugged. Not much else to do. He nodded and went back to his screen. That was it. I liked Marcus. The thing about the sameness was that I needed it. I know that probably sounds boring or maybe pathetic, but I didn't care. After Tacoma, after watching two guys I was supposed to keep safe get loaded into ambulances, because I missed a faulty wire junction in a back storage area, I couldn't handle surprises anymore. I needed to know what was coming. The same coffee, the same drive, the same hallways, the same broken sinks and busted smoke detectors. It kept me level. I treated the routine like a lifeline, something stable I could lean on. Every night I'd finish up around 6:30, write my notes in the log, hang the keys back on the hook in the office, and clock out. I'd be in my car by 7, back at my apartment in Warrenton by 7:20. Asleep by 8 if I was lucky. It worked. For 3 nights, it worked. 4th night, Rain was waiting for me in the back office when I clocked in. That wasn't normal. She usually left around 6, maybe 7 if she was dealing with a guest complaint or inventory stuff. But there she was, standing next to the desk with her arms crossed, still wearing her hotel blazer. "Paul," she said. "Hey, I need you to do something tonight, different from the punch list." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not panic exactly, just resistance. I didn't say anything. "Corporate's coming through next week," she said. "They want the storage areas cleaned up, organized. We've got a locked lost and found cabinet in here that's been sitting for probably 2 years, maybe longer. I need you to go through it, log everything, toss what's trash, box up anything worth keeping." I looked past her at the cabinet. I'd seen it before. Tall metal thing, olive green, pushed against the back wall behind a filing cabinet and a broken office chair. It had one of those old combination locks on it, the kind with a dial. "You know the combination?" I asked. "It's taped inside the top desk drawer," she said. She pulled the drawer open and handed me a sticky note. The numbers were written in blue ink, a little smudged. 32, 16, 8. "Just get it cleared out," she said. "Doesn't have to be tonight, but start on it. I want it done by Sunday." "Okay." She grabbed her purse off the desk. "Thanks. I know it's not your usual thing, but I'm short on day staff and nobody else is going to touch it." "It's fine." She left. I stood there holding the sticky note. I didn't want to do it. That probably sounds stupid. It was just a cabinet. But it wasn't on the list. It wasn't part of the routine. And I'd been counting on tonight being the same as the last 3. Same tasks, same rhythm, same quiet. I looked at the punch list sitting on the desk. 2 items. Toilet running in room 204. Thermostat acting up in 312. Easy stuff. I could knock those out in an hour, maybe less. The cabinet could wait. Except it couldn't, because Rain had said corporate was coming and she needed it done by Sunday. And if I put it off, I'd just be thinking about it every night until I finally dealt with it. That's how my brain worked now. Unfinished things sat in my head and made noise. I walked over to the cabinet. It was taller than I expected. Maybe 6 feet, about 2 feet wide. The paint was chipped along the edges and there was a dent near the bottom like someone had kicked it. The combination lock looked old but functional. I pulled the sticky note out of my pocket and started turning the dial. 32. I went past 0 and landed on 32. 16. Back the other way. 8. Forward again. The lock clicked. I pulled it off and set it on the desk. The cabinet doors were stiff. I had to yank on the handle to get them open, and when they finally swung out, the hinges made this high, scraping sound that set my teeth on edge. Inside was a mess. Shelves packed with stuff. Jackets, shoes, a couple of baseball caps, tangled phone chargers, a hairbrush, some kind of stuffed animal that might have been a dog, a few books, a watch, reading glasses. Everything was dusty, and it smelled stale, like air that hadn't moved in a long time. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The cabinet didn't have a light inside, and the back office's overhead fluorescence didn't reach all the way in. Top shelf. 3 jackets, one of them a kid's size, a pair of sunglasses with one lens missing, a Ziploc bag with some kind of bracelet inside. Second shelf, shoes. 4 pairs, all mismatched. A sneaker, a flip-flop, 2 dress shoes that didn't go together, a phone charger with the cord frayed, a water bottle. Third shelf, books, maybe 5 or 6 of them, all different sizes, a notebook with a blue cover, the stuffed dog, a makeup bag. Bottom shelf, bigger stuff, a backpack, dark gray, with both straps intact, a laptop sleeve, empty, a rolled-up towel that definitely didn't belong to the hotel because it was bright yellow and had a cartoon sun on it. I stood there for a second, just looking at it all. Rain had said 2 years, maybe longer. Some of this stuff looked older than that. The jackets had that worn-in look, the kind you only get after a lot of use. And nobody had come back for any of it. Nobody had called the hotel asking if they'd left a backpack or a pair of shoes or a kid's stuffed animal. I pulled a cardboard box out from under the desk and set it on the floor. Figured I'd start at the top and work my way down. Log everything like Rain said. Toss the trash, box the rest. I reached for the first jacket. That's when the radio on my belt crackled. "Maintenance, you copy?" "Marcus." I unclipped the radio. "Yeah, I'm here. Got a guest in 214 saying the shower's not draining. Can you check it?" 214. I'd cleared that sink on my first night. Same room. "On my way," I said. I looked back at the cabinet. Everything's still sitting there, dusty and untouched. I'd deal with it after. I pulled the cabinet doors open. They scraped loud enough that I glanced back at the office door, but nobody was around. Marcus was up front doing whatever Marcus did, and Rain was gone. The inside smelled like dust and something else. Old fabric, maybe. Mildew. I turned on my phone flashlight and aimed it at the top shelf. Sunglasses first. 2 pairs. Both cheap. One had a cracked lens. I set them on the desk behind me. A child's jacket. Pink with a cartoon character I didn't recognize. Probably been here longer than 2 years, based on how faded it looked. Then a plastic bag with a bracelet inside. Silver, I think. Hard to tell under the dust. I kept pulling things out. 4 shoes that didn't match. A phone charger with the cord frayed so bad it was basically trash. A water bottle still half full of something brown that I didn't want to think about. I worked through the second shelf. More clothes. A stuffed dog with one ear missing. A makeup bag. Third shelf had books. 5 or 6 of them. All different sizes. A paperback mystery. A hardcover cookbook. A kid's picture book about trains. And then a binder. Thin. Maybe half an inch thick. Dark blue cover. The kind you'd get at an office supply store for $3. Someone had tied it shut with twine. The rough kind that leaves fibers on your hands when you pull it. There was a label on the front, handwritten in black marker. Night notes. That was it. Just those 2 words. I set it on the desk next to the sunglasses and kept going. Bottom shelf had a baseball cap, a pair of flip-flops, and a hotel towel that someone must have thrown in there by mistake. I stood there for a second, looking at the pile of junk on the desk. Most of it was garbage. The jacket may be worth keeping. The bracelet if it was real silver. Everything else could go in a trash bag, but the binder sat there in the middle of it all, and I kept looking at it. I untied the twine. It came loose, easy, just a basic knot. I flipped the cover open. The first page had 5 lines of text, typed on what looked like an old typewriter. The letters were uneven, some darker than others. The heading was in all caps. Rules for the night shift. Underneath, I read through them twice. They didn't make sense. Some of them, sure. Propping the laundry door open was just practical. I'd already figured that out on night 2 when the door swung shut behind me and I had to go back upstairs for the key. But the rest of it felt off. specific in a way that bugged me. I turned the page. The next section was a logbook. Dates running down the left margin, entries filling the rest of the page in the same typewritten text. The first date was today, March 28th. My chest did something weird. The entry read, March 28th, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Quiet night. Cleaned lost and found cabinet per Rain's request. Running toilet in 204, flapper valve. Thermostat in 312, replaced battery. Coffee spill on left shoe at 12:22 a.m. Guest complaint at 12:37 a.m. Ice machine 3rd floor. Brought kitchen ice in red bucket. Logged hours, 8. I read it again. Then I flipped forward. March 29th, March 30th, April 1st. Entries for every single night 2 weeks out. Each one had the same kind of detail. Tasks, times. Small things that didn't seem important but were written down anyway. April 2nd said I'd replace a light bulb in the 2nd floor hallway at 1:43 a.m. and find a wallet behind the vending machine at 3:15 a.m. April 5th said the boiler would make a rattling sound at 2 a.m. and I'd check the gauge, find it normal, and go back upstairs without opening the door. I sat down in the desk chair. My coffee was still on the edge of the desk, half full and lukewarm by now. This was someone's idea of a joke. Had to be. Maybe Marcus printed it out as some kind of prank for the new guy. Or Rain, testing me to see if I'd fall for something stupid. Except the details were too specific. The running toilet in 204 was on tonight's punch list. So was the thermostat in 312. Those were real. The coffee spill, though, that was random. I didn't spill coffee. I was careful. Always put the cup down before I carried tools or bent over to check something. It was automatic by now. I looked at my watch. 11:41. I had time. Toilet first, then the thermostat. I'd leave the binder open on the desk and come back to it later. Probably figure out the punchline by then. I grabbed my toolbox and the key ring and headed upstairs. The toilet in 204 took 10 minutes. The flapper valve was stuck half open, same issue I'd seen a dozen times before. I swapped it out, tested the flush, and wrote it in the log. Thermostat in 312 was even easier. Dead battery. I kept a pack of AA's in my toolbox for exactly this kind of thing. Popped the cover off, replaced the battery, and the display lit up again. I went back downstairs and logged both jobs. 12:17 a.m. The binder was still open on the desk. I sat down and looked at today's entry again. Coffee spill on left shoe at 12:22 a.m. 5 minutes from now. I picked up my coffee cup, felt the weight of it, checked the bottom to make sure it wasn't leaking. It was fine. The desk was level. My hand wasn't shaking or anything. I set the cup back down, further from the edge this time. Then I just sat there, watching the clock on my phone. 12:20 a.m. 12:21. This was stupid. I was sitting here waiting for something that wasn't going to happen because someone wrote it in a binder that had been locked in a cabinet for who knows how long. 12:22. I reached for the coffee. My grip felt normal. I brought the cup toward me, same motion I'd done 1,000 times. The lid wasn't on tight. I didn't know that until the cup tilted and the whole top half came loose in my hand. Coffee went everywhere. Across the desk, into my lap, straight down onto my left shoe. I stood up fast, holding the cup away from me. The lid clattered onto the floor. Coffee was still dripping off the edge of the desk. My left shoe was soaked. I could feel it through the leather, cold and wet against my sock. I grabbed napkins from the desk drawer and wiped up the spill. Took about 3 minutes to get most of it. My shoe stayed wet. I looked at the binder. Coffee spill on left shoe at 12:22 a.m. My hands felt cold. I sat back down and stared at the entry, reading it over and over, trying to find some angle I'd missed. Some way this made sense. It didn't. The lid had been fine when I brought the coffee in. I'd checked it in the car, same as always. pressed it down to make sure it was sealed. It was tight, and now it wasn't. I turned the page, then turned it back. The entries didn't change. March 28th was still there, still exactly right about 2 repair jobs I'd already finished and a coffee spill that just happened at the exact minute it said it would. I didn't know what to do with that, so I just sat there, staring at the binder, half wanting to throw it back in the cabinet and half needing to know what came next. The next line said, "Guest complaint at 12:37 a.m. Ice machine 3rd floor. Brought kitchen ice in red bucket." I checked my watch. 12:29. 8 minutes. I got up and walked to the window. The parking lot was empty except for my car and Marcus's sedan. The bridge lights reflected off the water, same as every other night. I went back to the desk. 12:32. The radio was quiet. It had been quiet all night. Marcus never called unless someone at the front desk needed something, and that almost never happened after midnight. 12:35. I picked up the binder and read the entry again. I went back to the binder. My left shoe was still wet. I could feel it every time I shifted my weight. The coffee had soaked through to my sock. That part bugged me more than it should have. The first page was still open. Rules for the night shift. I'd skimmed them before, but I hadn't actually read them, not carefully. I pulled the binder closer and started from the top again. Prop laundry room door open at least 6 inches. I'd figured that one out on night 2. The door swung shut on its own and the handle locked from the hallway side. I'd had to radio Marcus for the spare key. Took him 20 minutes to find it. Don't go to the 4th floor between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. There wasn't a 4th floor. The bowline only had 3 stories. I'd seen the blueprints during the walkthrough. Rain had shown me the layout in the back office. If the lobby lights flicker 3 times, leave the front desk area immediately. That one didn't come with an explanation, just the instruction. Don't answer room 439 if it calls. The note in parentheses below it said, "There is no room 439. Keep the office door unlocked during rounds." I looked at the office door. It didn't have a lock on the inside, just the key deadbolt that locked from the hallway. If you hear knocking from inside the walls, ignore it. I stopped reading. My hands were cold again. The office heat worked fine, but my fingers felt stiff anyway. I flipped to the second page. More rules. Don't use the elevator between 1:11 a.m. and 1:33 a.m. That one was specific, 22 minutes exactly. I checked my phone. It was 12:43 a.m. Don't answer if room 214 calls after midnight. Room 214 was the clogged sink from my first night. I'd pulled a hair wad the size of a golf ball out of the trap. The guests had checked out 2 days ago. Basement laundry door must stay propped open at least 6 inches. Same as the first rule, but more specific about the measurement. 6 inches minimum. I sat there for a minute, maybe 2. The binder had predicted the coffee spill down to the exact minute. My shoe was still wet. That was real. I couldn't explain it, but I couldn't ignore it either. I stood up and grabbed the toolbox. The basement stairs were narrow, and the fluorescent lights flickered halfway down. They always did. I'd made a note to replace the ballast, but hadn't gotten to it yet. The laundry room was at the end of the hall. I could hear the machines running before I saw them. That steady thump, thump, thump I'd gotten used to over the last few nights. I pushed the door open all the way and looked around for something to prop it with. There was a wooden doorstop on the floor near the dryer, painted red, chipped along the edge. I picked it up and wedged it under the door, adjusting the angle until the gap measured about 6 inches. The effect was immediate. The air in the hallway behind me turned colder. Not a draft, just cold. Like someone had opened a window somewhere, but there weren't any windows down here. I stepped back into the hallway and felt it. The temperature dropped maybe 10 degrees in the space of a few feet. The laundry room stayed warm, humid from the dryers, but the hallway air didn't mix with it. They stayed separated. I stood there with one foot in the laundry room and one in the hall, feeling the difference against my legs. It didn't make sense. Air doesn't do that. Warm air rises, cold air sinks, and they mix in between. That's basic thermodynamics. But this didn't mix. I pulled my foot back into the laundry room and the warmth closed around me again. Stepped into the hall and the cold pressed against my chest. I didn't like it. I went back into the laundry room and swapped the loads anyway. Moved the wet towels from the washer to the dryer, started a new load of sheets and checked the lint trap. My hands moved through the routine, but my brain was still on that separated air. The doorstop stayed in place, 6 inches exactly. I took the stairs back up to the office. The binder was still open on the desk. I sat down and flipped past the entry about the coffee spill, past the guest complaint that hadn't happened yet. March 29th, March 30th, April 1st. I stopped on April 2nd. The entry for 1:17 a.m. said, "Used elevator anyway. Hands smelled like coins after." I read it 3 times. Anyway. That word sat wrong, like whoever wrote this knew I'd try not to, knew I'd avoid it on purpose and do it regardless. I checked my phone, 12:51 a.m., 26 minutes until 1:17. I kept flipping. April 5th had a note about the boiler. April 7th mentioned a clogged drain in room 318. April 10th said something about the ice machine again. Nothing else about the elevator. I closed the binder and pushed it to the side of the desk. My radio was quiet. Marcus hadn't called. The punch list only had the 2 items, and I'd already finished both. I should have started on the lost and found sorting. Rain wanted it done by Sunday, and tonight was only Thursday, but I didn't touch the cabinet. I just sat there until 1 p.m. Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, and headed for the stairs. I took the steps 2 at a time going up, checked the 2nd floor hallway first. Empty. The ice machine hummed at the far end near the window. 1:03 a.m. I walked to the 3rd floor next, slower. The stairwell smelled like industrial cleaner and old paint. My boots made almost no sound on the concrete steps. 3rd floor hallway was empty too. I checked around the corner by the vending machines. Nothing. I used to do this in Tacoma, walk the floors during safety checks, look for blocked exits, frayed cords, anything that could turn into a problem. I got good at spotting things before they mattered. That was before the warehouse. I shook it off and kept moving. The elevator was at the far end of the hall near the front stairwell. I walked past it without stopping and took the stairs back down to the 1st floor. 1:09 a.m. The lobby was empty. Marcus was at the front desk with his head down, probably reading something on his phone. He didn't look up when I crossed to the back hallway. I checked the maintenance closet, counted the spare light bulbs on the shelf. 11 total. 360 watt, 575 watt, 3 LEDs, 1:12 a.m. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw Rain's name on the screen. Rain Lewis. Family arrived early. Room 212. Housekeeping didn't stock it. Need rollaway bed, brought up ASAP. I stared at the message. 1:13 a.m. I texted back, on it. Rain sent another message. Check system for names, Joey, Vicky, and Kid. Ethan, I think. I opened the hotel system on the desk computer. Took 30 seconds to load. The reservation for room 212 showed 3 guests, Joey Jenkins, Vicky Jenkins, Ethan Jenkins. Check-in time listed as 3 p.m. today, but the note said they'd arrived at 11:45 p.m. instead. I closed the system and looked at the storage closet across the hall. The rollaway beds were in there, folded up against the back wall. Heavy steel frames with thin mattresses, maybe 70 pounds each. Awkward to carry. The elevator was right there, 2nd floor. 30 seconds up, 30 seconds back. I checked my phone again, 1:15 a.m. The binder had said 1:17. 2 minutes from now, I could take the stairs, drag the rollaway up one step at a time. It'd take maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10. My back would hate me, but I'd avoid whatever the elevator was supposed to do. Used elevator anyway, that word again. Anyway, like I didn't have a choice. Like it didn't matter what I decided because the outcome was already written down in a binder that predicted coffee spills and guest complaints and every other damn thing that happened tonight. I pulled the rollaway out of the closet. The wheels squeaked. One of them didn't turn right and dragged against the floor. 70 pounds, maybe more. The stairs were narrow, the bed was wide, the elevator was 15 feet away. 1:16 a.m. I stood there with my hands on the cold steel frame, staring at the elevator doors, and that word sat in my head like a shove. Anyway. I wheeled the rollaway bed out of the storage closet at 1:12 a.m. The thing was heavier than it looked, metal frame on cheap casters that wobbled left every few feet. I had to correct the angle twice just getting it across the lobby. Marcus didn't look up from the desk. The elevator was near the front stairwell. I rolled the bed up to the doors and hit the call button. The panel lit up orange, same as always. I'd used this elevator maybe 3 times in 4 nights. Stairs were faster and I didn't like small spaces much. But the rollaway was awkward, and Rain said ASAP, so the doors opened. Empty car, beige walls, scratched metal handrail running along 3 sides. I pulled the bed in backward, turned it, and pressed the button for 2. The doors closed. The overhead lights hummed, standard fluorescent hum, the kind you stop hearing after a few seconds. The elevator started to rise, and I felt the floor shift under my boots. Normal. All of it normal. Then it stopped. Not a smooth stop. A stall. Like the mechanism just quit halfway between floors. I waited. Sometimes elevators pause. Something about load balancing or sensor checks. I didn't know the details, but I'd seen it happen before. The panel went dark. Every button, the floor indicator, the little emergency phone light, all of it dead. The overhead fluorescence cut out half a second later. The only light left was a weak greenish glow coming from somewhere near the ceiling. Emergency backup, probably. It didn't brighten the space so much as make the shadows look wrong. Everything had this tinted edge to it, sickly and dim. I could see the rollaway bed in front of me and my hands on the frame and the outline of the doors. That was it. The air smelled different. Metallic, like pennies. Like when you handle a bunch of change and your palms come away smelling like old pockets. Sharp and stale at the same time. I pulled my hands off the bed frame and wiped them on my pants. They came away dry, but the smell didn't go anywhere. My chest tightened. Not panic, just awareness. The kind of feeling I used to get in Tacoma when something was about to go sideways and I didn't know what yet. I pressed the door open button. Nothing. Pressed it again. Still nothing. Then I heard the tapping. Slow. Regular. Tap, tap, tap. Coming from above the ceiling tile. I kept my eyes on the door seam. Didn't look up. Didn't need to. The sound was enough. Metal on metal. Methodical. Like something testing the surface. Checking for weak spots. Tap, tap, tap. It moved, left to right, then back again. Not random. Deliberate. I focused on the thin line of shadow where the elevator doors met, watched it, and counted my breathing. In for 4, out for 4. Old habit from safety training. Keeps you steady when your brain wants to do something stupid. The tapping stopped. I waited. The smell got worse, heavier, like the air was thicker. Then the whole elevator jolted. I grabbed the handrail on instinct, felt the frame shudder under my palm, and the car started climbing again. Smooth this time. No grinding gears or stuttering motion, just upward movement in the dark with that green-tinted emergency light barely holding on. The floor indicator didn't light up. I couldn't tell if we'd passed the second floor, or stopped at it, or kept going. No chime, no panel feedback, just the faint hum of the motor and my own breathing. The doors opened, I stepped out fast, pulling the rollaway bed behind me, got it clear of the threshold and let go of the frame. Turned around. The hallway looked like the bowline. Same width, same layout, but wrong. The carpet pattern was reversed. I'd walked these halls enough to know the design. Dark blue with lighter geometric lines running left to right. Here they ran right to left, flipped, mirrored. The exit signs at both ends of the corridor were dark, not broken, just unlit. I could see the red plastic casings and the stenciled letters, but no glow behind them. I looked at the nearest door, room 303. That didn't track. I'd hit the button for 2. But 303 meant 3rd floor, and the bowline only had 3 floors total. I should have been on 2. I checked the door across the hall. Room 308. The numbers were out of order. 303 on the left, 308 on the right. No 304, 305, 306, 307 in between. Just a gap. The air felt damp, not wet, just heavy, like humidity without the warmth. A phone started ringing, farther down the hall, behind one of the doors. Old-style landline ring, sharp and insistent. I looked at the rollaway bed, looked at the hallway. I was committed. Rain gave me a task, and I don't leave things half done. That's how mistakes happen. You start skipping steps and everything falls apart. I grabbed the bed frame and started walking. The ringing got louder. It was coming from somewhere on the right side, maybe 4 or 5 doors down. I didn't count them. Didn't look at the numbers, just kept moving. Halfway down, I saw room 214. That stopped me. Room 214 shouldn't be on the 3rd floor. It was 2nd floor, left side, near the window. I'd fixed the sink in there on my first night, but here it was. Door identical to the one I remembered. Number placard bolted crooked, just like before. And it was positioned wrong. Too close to room 212. Maybe 3 feet of wall space between them instead of the usual 8 or 10. Like someone had shoved the whole building together and the rooms compressed. The phone kept ringing, louder now, sharper. The dampness in the air thickened. I could feel it on my skin, cold and slick. My breath came out in a faint mist even though it wasn't that cold. I didn't stop. Kept the bed rolling. Past 214 without looking at the door. At the end of the hall, I found the stairwell. Same steel door, same crash bar. I pushed it open with my shoulder, pulled the rollaway through, and let the door swing shut behind me. The stairwell was concrete and bright. Fluorescent lights overhead, no flicker. The air smelled like paint and cleaner. Normal. I went down, 1 flight. My boots hit each step solid and the sound echoed clean off the walls. No dampness, no penny smell, just stairs. I pushed through the door at the bottom, a 2nd floor hallway, correct carpet pattern left to right, exit signs glowing red at both ends, room numbers in order, 201, 203, 205 on the left, 202, 204, 206 on the right. I stood there with one hand still on the door and the other on the bed frame. My heart was doing something fast and uneven in my chest. I made myself breathe slow again. 4 in, 4 out. The hallway was quiet, familiar, exactly like it should be. I looked back at the stairwell door, solid, unremarkable, same as always. I let go and started walking toward room 212. I wheeled the rollaway bed past room 212 and headed back toward the stairs. The hallway was quiet. Normal. The exit signs glowed red at both ends, and the carpet ran left to right the way it was supposed to. I took the stairs down to the 1st floor and crossed the lobby, pulling the bed behind me. Marcus didn't look up from the desk. The wheels made a clicking sound on the tile near the front entrance. I pushed the bed back into the storage closet and shut the door. That's when the front desk phone started ringing. I checked my watch, 1:18 a.m. That couldn't be right. I'd left the office at 1:12 to get the bed. The whole thing, pulling it from the closet, taking the elevator, dealing with whatever that hallway was, coming back down the stairs, felt like it took at least 20 minutes. maybe 30. But my watch said 1:18. 6 minutes total. I stood there in the middle of the lobby trying to work it out. The numbers didn't make sense. I remembered standing in that hallway with the reversed carpet and the dark exit signs. I remembered the phone ringing behind one of the doors. That took time, real time. The desk phone kept ringing. I walked over and looked at the big round clock mounted on the wall behind the front desk, the kind with a white face and black hands and numbers. It flickered. Not the whole clock, just the minute hand. It jumped from pointing at the 2 to pointing at the 4 and then back to the 2. 12:08, 1:18, 12:08, 1:18. Marcus still had his head down. He wasn't reacting to the phone or the clock, or me standing 6 feet away staring at the wall. The phone stopped ringing for half a second and then started again. I looked at the caller ID display on the desk phone. Small green screen with black text. Room 214. The rules said don't answer calls from room 214 after midnight. I didn't touch the phone. I pulled the small notebook from my back pocket, the one I used for quick notes during rounds, and wrote down the time. 1:18 a.m. Room 214 called. The phone stopped ringing. I put the notebook back in my pocket and stood there waiting. My chest felt tight. The lobby was too quiet except for the low hum from the vending machines near the far wall. The phone started ringing again. Same insistent sound, same sharp, repetitive tone. I checked the caller ID again. Still room 214. Whoever it was wasn't giving up. I pulled the notebook back out and wrote 1:19 a.m. Room 214 called again. I looked at my hands while I was writing. They were clean. No coffee stains or grease or anything else. But they smelled wrong. Metallic, like I'd been handling a roll of pennies or counting change for 20 minutes straight. I lifted my right hand and sniffed near the palm. Definitely coins. That sharp coppery smell you get when you've been holding metal too long and it leaves a residue on your skin. The binder had said it. April sent, 1:17 a.m. Used elevator anyway. Hands smelled like coins after. I hadn't read that entry until tonight, but it had been sitting in the cabinet for who knows how long, and now my hands smelled exactly like it said they would. The phone finally stopped ringing. I walked back to the office and pushed the door open. The binder was still sitting on the desk where I'd left it, open to the page with tonight's entries. I sat down and flipped back to the rules section, then forward through the dated entries. March 28th, March 29th, March 30th. I stopped. There was a new line on the March 30th entry, handwritten in blue ink that looked darker and fresher than the rest of the page. Different handwriting too, smaller and neater than the typed text or the other handwritten notes. It said, 2:41 a.m., check the mirror in the lobby restroom. I read it 3 times. I hadn't seen that line before. I was sure of it. I'd gone through this binder twice already tonight, and that entry hadn't been there. I flipped back 1 page, then forward again. The line was still there. Same blue ink, same neat handwriting. The binder was changing, adding things, reacting. I thought about the elevator, how I'd told myself I wasn't going to use it, how I'd planned to take the stairs. But then Rain texted about the rollaway bed and I'd use the elevator anyway because it was faster and she wanted it done ASAP. The word anyway in that April 2nd entry made sense now. Whoever wrote it knew I'd try to avoid the elevator, knew I'd use it regardless. And now there was a new instruction, like the binder was adjusting, telling me what to do next because I'd done something it didn't expect. Or maybe because I had done exactly what it expected, and now it was giving me the next step. I closed the binder and pushed it to the far edge of the desk. My hands still smelled like coins. I opened the desk drawer and started going through papers, old punch lists, printed work orders, a faded employee contact sheet with names I didn't recognize and a date from 4 years ago. I kept digging. There had to be something. Contact info for prior overnight staff. Someone who'd worked this shift before me and maybe knew what the hell this binder was. The radio on my belt crackled but stayed quiet. No calls, no Marcus checking in. I found a 3-ring binder under a stack of vendor invoices, labeled Personnel Archived. I opened it and flipped through plastic sleeve pages with printed rosters and handwritten schedules. Most of the names were day shift, housekeeping, front desk, a few maintenance workers. I found the overnight section near the back. 3 names total over the past 6 years. The most recent one was dated 8 months ago. No phone numbers, just names and end dates. I closed the binder and put it back in the drawer. I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened my contacts. Scrolled down to Dalton Harper, local patrol officer who worked nights and checked in on the hotel sometimes. I'd met him my second night when he stopped by around 3 a.m. to use the restroom and get coffee from the lobby pot. We'd talked for maybe 5 minutes. He'd given me his number and said to call if anything came up. I figured a malfunctioning elevator in a hallway that shouldn't exist counted as something coming up. I pressed call. It rang 4 times before he picked up. "Harper, it's Paul from the Bowline." "Yeah, what's going on?" "Elevator's acting up. Got stuck between floors earlier. Lights went out. Took a while to get it moving again." "You stuck in it now?" "No, I'm out. But when the doors opened, I was on the wrong floor. 3rd instead of 2nd. And the hallway looked off." There was a pause. I heard static and maybe road noise in the background. "Off how?" "Carpet was backwards. Exit signs were dark. Room numbers out of order." Another pause. "You feeling okay?" "I'm fine. I'm just saying the elevator's not working right. Thought you should know in case someone needs to call it in." "You tell Rain?" "Not yet. It's 1:30 in the morning." "Right." He exhaled. "I'm over on the east side right now, but I can swing by in 20. Take a look." "Appreciate it. Don't use the elevator again until I get there." Wasn't planning on it. I ended the call and put the phone back in my pocket. I didn't mention the binder. Didn't mention the rules or the entries or the phone ringing from room 214. I wasn't sure how to explain any of that without sounding like I'd lost it. The office felt smaller than it had an hour ago. I stood up and walked out into the hallway. I needed to check the laundry. Make sure the doorstop was still wedged at 6 inches. I took the stairs down to the basement. The fluorescent light halfway down flickered the way it always did. I still hadn't replaced the ballast. At the bottom, the hallway stretched out toward the laundry room. I could hear the machines running. Thump, thump, thump. The doorstop was still in place. 6 inches exactly. The air on my side of the threshold was cold. The air inside the laundry room was warm and damp. I stepped inside and checked the dryer. Towels were done. I pulled them out and folded them into a cart, started a new load from the washer. When I came back out into the hallway, I kept my eyes forward, no looking at windows or shiny surfaces. The vending machines were near the far stairwell on the 1st floor, and I wasn't going that way. But I had to cross the lobby to get back to the office. I climbed the stairs and pushed through the door into the 1st floor hallway, walked past the maintenance closet and turned the corner into the lobby. The vending machines were on the left, bright lit panels with glass fronts reflecting the overhead lights. I kept walking, didn't look directly at them. But I saw it anyway, just for a second, in my peripheral vision, my reflection in the glass. It was standing still when I wasn't. I stopped walking. My reflection kept moving, just a little. A slight turn of the shoulders, a shift of weight. I looked away fast and kept my eyes on the floor. My heart was pounding. I checked my phone. 2:39 a.m. 2:41 was 2 minutes away. The new line in the binder had said to check the mirror in the lobby restroom at 2:41. I wasn't going to do that. I didn't care what the binder said. There were some rules you didn't test. I walked straight to the office without looking at anything reflective and shut the door behind me. I stayed in the office with the door open, listening for footsteps or the front entrance chime. At 2:45 a.m., I heard boots on tile and walked out to the lobby. Dalton was standing near the front desk, hands on his duty belt. Marcus wasn't at his usual spot. The chair was empty. "Hey," I said. Dalton turned, looked at me. Not the way you look at someone you've met before. Not even the way you look at a stranger you're about to help. He looked at me the way you look at furniture. "You the one who called about an elevator?" he said. I stopped walking. "Yeah. What's your name?" That was it. Right there. I'd talked to Dalton 3 times before tonight. Once when he stopped by on rounds my second shift. Once when I saw him at the Safeway on Marine Drive buying energy drinks at 6 a.m. Once when he gave me his number and told me to call if anything felt off during the overnight. He knew my name. He'd used it. Now he was asking for it. I didn't answer right away, just looked at him. His uniform was the same. Badge in the right spot. Duty belt worn exactly how I remembered. Same close-cropped hair, same squared jaw, same weather jacket over the uniform. But his eyes were wrong. Not the color, not the shape. Just wrong. "Paul," I said. "Paul," he repeated, flat, like he was testing the sound. "Show me the elevator." I didn't move. My chest felt tight again, the same way it had in the elevator car with the green light and the tapping overhead. The same way it had in Tacoma when I realized the smoke alarm wasn't going off, even though I could see the haze spreading across the warehouse ceiling. Dalton wasn't Dalton. Or he was Dalton, but the hotel had changed something. Erased something. I thought about the reversed carpet, the dark exit signs, room 214 appearing on the 3rd floor, the clock that couldn't decide what time it was. The hotel could change things. It could change people too. "This way," I said. I led him across the lobby toward the elevator near the front stairwell. I kept my hands loose at my sides, didn't look back, didn't check if he was following. He was. I could hear his boots. We stopped in front of the elevator. I pressed the call button. It lit up orange. Same as before. "Happened around 1:15, I said. "Stalled between floors. Panel went dark. Lights cut out except for the emergency backup." "Uh-huh." Dalton pulled a small notepad from his jacket. Clicked a pen. "How long were you stuck?" "Maybe a minute, then it started moving again." "Doors open, normal after that?" "Yeah." He wrote something down. "You file a maintenance report?" "Not yet." "You should do that." The elevator doors opened. Empty car, beige walls, scratched handrail. Overhead fluorescent working fine. Dalton stepped inside, pressed the button for floor 2, pressed floor 3, pressed floor 1. The panel responded normally. Buttons lit up, doors closed. I heard the car start moving. I waited. 30 seconds later, the doors opened again on the 1st floor. Dalton stepped out. "Seems fine to me," he said. "Yeah. Probably just a power fluctuation. Happens sometimes." He clicked his pen again, put the notepad away. "Anything else?" I thought about the binder, the rules, the entry that said to check the mirror at 2:41 a.m. I thought about room 214 calling twice. I thought about my hands still smelling like coins. "No," I said, "that's it." "All right." Dalton nodded once, started walking toward the front entrance. Stopped, turned back. "You work here long?" "4 nights." "Uh-huh." He looked at me the same way again. "Furniture? You seem tired." "I'm fine." "Right." He pushed through the front door and left. I stood in the lobby alone. Marcus still wasn't at the desk. I checked my phone. 2:51 a.m. I walked back toward the office, eyes on the carpet. Halfway across the lobby, I saw something white on the floor near the vending machines. A key card. I picked it up. Plain white plastic with the Bowline logo stamped in faded blue ink. No room number. Just 2 words printed in small black letters along the magnetic strip. Lobby only. I'd never seen a keycard like that before. Didn't know we had them. Didn't know what they'd be used for. I carried it to the front desk and set it down next to the computer monitor. Protocol. Found items go on the desk or in the lost and found. I turned toward the office. Then I stopped. Turned back around. Walked straight to the front entrance, pushed through the glass door, and stepped outside. The air was cold. Damp. Smelled like salt water and diesel from the port. I could see my car in the employee lot. Could see the bridge lights reflecting off the river. I stood facing the street with my back to the hotel, pulled out my phone and set a timer for 5 minutes. I didn't look at the windows behind me, didn't turn around, just counted. At 4 minutes and 30 seconds, I heard something. A chime. Faint, muffled by the glass door in the distance, but I knew that sound. Elevator arriving, I finished counting. 5 minutes exactly. Then I turned around and went back inside. The lobby looked normal, lights steady, no flicker. The clock behind the front desk showed 2:58 a.m. The minute hand wasn't jumping anymore. Marcus was back at the desk, head down, didn't look up when I walked past. I crossed to the office. The binder was still on the desk, but the twine was untied. I stopped in the doorway. The rough brown twine I'd pulled loose when I first opened the binder was sitting in a loose coil next to the dark blue cover. The binder itself was open. Pages spread flat. I stepped closer. It was open to a blank page, no date, no typed header, no handwritten entries. Just white paper. A pen was lying across the center of the page. Black ballpoint, the kind we kept in the desk drawer. The tip looked wet. I picked up the pen, held it up to the light. A tiny bead of ink clung to the tip, fresh and dark. I set it down carefully. Then I closed the binder, wrapped the twine around it twice, and tied it tight. I left it on the desk and went to the basement. The stairs were the same. Fluorescent light flickering halfway down. Concrete walls, smell of paint and cleaner. At the bottom, I turned left toward the laundry room. The door was closed. I stopped walking. The red wooden doorstop was gone. I walked closer, pressed my palm against the door. It was cold, colder than it should have been. From the other side, I heard tapping. Slow, regular, metal on metal. Not frantic, not angry, careful, patient, testing. I stepped back, looked up and down the hallway, found a metal housekeeping cart pushed against the far wall, the kind with wheels and a canvas bag for trash. I rolled it down the hall and wedged it against the laundry room door, pushed hard until the frame pressed tight against the wood. The tapping continued. I left it there and took the stairs back up. In the lobby, I turned right toward the restroom near the vending machines, pushed through the door, flipped the light switch. The mirror was above the sink. Plain rectangular glass in a cheap metal frame reflected the fluorescent overhead, the beige tile, my face. I turned on the hot water, let it run. Steam started rising after about 30 seconds. I kept the water running, didn't look at the mirror. The steam spread, fogged the glass. I counted to 60. Then I turned off the water and left without looking back. At the front desk, I logged into the computer, opened the door lock audit system, typed in room 214. The screen loaded, entries going back 3 weeks. Housekeeping access at 10 a.m., 11:30 a.m., 2 p.m., normal. Then after midnight entries, 12:03 a.m., 12:17 a.m., 12:41 a.m., 1:09 a.m., 1:52 a.m. No staff name listed, just access granted in the log, over and over. Every night for 3 weeks. I closed the window, Room 214 wasn't a guest room anymore. It was something else, a building function, a part of the structure that worked whether anyone was inside or not. I logged out, went back to the office, picked up the binder. Then I grabbed the key ring and walked to the stairs. Second floor. The hallway was quiet, carpet running left to right, exit signs glowing red at both ends, room numbers in order. I walked to room 214. The door looked the same as it had on my first night. Same crooked number placard. Same scuffed paint along the bottom edge. I pulled the master key from the ring, slid it into the lock, turned it. The bolt clicked. I pushed the door open 6 inches. Cold air spilled out. Not cold like air conditioning. Cold like a freezer, like winter. I heard ringing, muffled, distant, like it was coming from underwater. I didn't step inside, didn't look past the threshold. I held the binder in my right hand, pulled my arm back, threw it through the gap. It hit the floor inside with a flat slap. The ringing stopped, pages flipped, fast, loud, like wind tearing through paper. Then the binder snapped shut. Something dragged it deeper into the room. I didn't see what, didn't look. I reached through the gap, fingers searching the carpet. Found the binder's edge, braced my boot against the spine. Pulled. It resisted. Then it slid toward me. I grabbed it with both hands, yanked it through the doorway, and stepped back. The door started closing on its own. I turned and ran for the stairwell, shoved through the fire door. Let it slam behind me. My breathing was fast, uneven. I stood in the stairwell for 30 seconds. Listened. Nothing. I went back down to the first floor. In the office, I opened the cash drop safe under the desk. It had a combination dial and a narrow slot for envelopes. I pulled the safe door open with the key Rain kept in the top drawer. I put the binder inside, closed the door, spun the dial 3 times. The tapping in the basement stopped. I sat at the desk, checked my phone. 4:18 a.m. I stayed there until 6 a.m. Didn't move, didn't check the punch list, didn't run laundry, just sat. At exactly 6 a.m., I heard the back door open. Footsteps in the hallway. Rain walked into the office carrying her purse and a travel mug. She stopped when she saw me. "You're still here," she said. "I'm done," I said. She blinked. "What?" "I'm quitting. Right now." Rain set her purse on the desk. "Paul, it's 6 in the morning. You can't just—" "The night notes," I said. "The binder and the lost and found. It needs to go to corporate, not to another overnight worker." "Corporate? What are you talking about?" "You know what I'm talking about." She looked at me for a long time. Then she looked at the safe. "Paul," she said. Her voice was quieter. "You can't leave in the middle of a shift." "I just did." "If you walk out now, I can't rehire you. You know that." "Good." Rain's jaw tightened. "Fine. Go." I stood, grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair, checked my pockets for my keys. Rain sat down in the chair I'd just left, pulled the computer keyboard toward her. Didn't look at me. I walked out of the office, crossed the lobby. Marcus still wasn't at the desk. I pushed through the front door and got in my car. I drove to the Astoria post office. It didn't open until 8:30 a.m., so I sat in the parking lot and waited. When the doors unlocked, I went inside and bought a padded envelope and a book of stamps. I pulled my spare drop-safe key from my keychain, the one Rain had given me on my first night in case the main key got lost. I sealed it in the envelope, addressed it to myself, my apartment in Tacoma. Zip code I'd written 100 times. I handed it to the clerk and paid in cash. Then I got back in my car and left Astoria. I took Highway 30 east, drove past the turnoff for Warrenton, past my apartment complex with the peeling paint and the dumpsters that smelled like old fish. Kept driving. The highway followed the river for a while, then it cut inland through forest and farmland. I stopped once for gas in Clatskanie, bought a bottle of water and a bag of chips I didn't eat. I got back on the highway and kept going. By 9 a.m., I was past Longview. By 10:30, I was crossing into Tacoma. I didn't go to my apartment. Drove straight to a storage facility off Pacific Avenue and rented a unit. Paid 3 months up front. Went back to the apartment, packed everything I owned into my car and a U-Haul trailer I rented from the place 2 blocks over. Took 4 trips. I turned in my keys to the apartment manager on the 5th. Didn't ask for my deposit back. Didn't leave a forwarding address. I stayed in a motel near the airport for 2 weeks. Then I found a studio in Olympia. Ground floor, 2 exits. No overnight deliveries in the area. I worked day shifts after that. Grocery stock at a Safeway, line cook at a diner off I-5, security at a shopping mall during the holidays. Never nights. I got job offers. Overnight warehouse work paid double. Graveyard janitorial shifts came with benefits and overtime. I turned them all down. Didn't matter what they paid. Didn't matter how bad I needed the money. I never took another night shift job.